Hello. So the JET program 2009, that was the calendar they give out to all JETs, is over. It's now 2010. And this is my first vlog in 2010. Akemashite omedetou. Happy New Year. I thought I'd make one vlog with the beard, the winter beard, before I shave it this week. And I got a PM from a subscriber recently asking me about the differences between teaching in Japan as an ALT, assistant language teacher, elementary, junior high, and high school. And I've talked about this in passing in other videos, but I've never really just articulated, kind of bullet pointed the differences. So that's what I'm intending to do here, hopefully in under 10 minutes. The caveat being that when I was an ALT, for the 5 years I was in Shimane, I taught mainly at junior high with Shogako, elementary school visits. So I know a lot about those two places. I never really taught at high school. I visited and had some kind of like exchange lessons there, but never on a day-to-day basis. So right off the top, I invite all of you active ALTs who subscribe to my channel and will see this video to please leave a comment. Video response would be great as well, talking about your situation, because as you know, if you study about JET, the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program, you know that the common cliche that we talk about is ESID. Every situation is different. But there are some generalities, some common things that I can talk about that I think are fairly across the board. Fairly common across the board. So here we go. Let's break it down into sections. So first thing we'll talk about is your students. If you teach at elementary school, your students are going to be age 7 to about age 12. That's from 1st grade to 6th grade, Ichinensei to Rokunensei. And a lot of you will be asked to teach 5th and 6th graders primarily, because they now are going to start having a book, which is going to be adopted everywhere in 2011, but I'm sure many places are using it now. And I have a whole nother vlog about this, that book called Eigo Noto, on my channel, so you can check that out. I'll leave links in the side. So 5th and 6th graders, but you'll teach others. Basically, your students at that level are going to be very genki. They're going to be hyper. They're going to want to play games and sing songs. And the English that you're going to teach them is very simple, but they're not going to be able to speak hardly at all unless you're at some kind of specially advanced school. The students at your junior high are going to be grades 7, 8, 9, although they're also called Ichi, Ni, and San Nensei, basically age 12 to age 15. A lot of changes happen in their lives. In this time, if you remember being a teenager, you're going to get kids that are very into English, some that hate English. They're going to be taught primarily out of a not very good textbook. And a lot of the teachers that you teach with will do a lot of just rote kind of grammar, translation, memorization type of stuff. You won't be as in charge of the lessons because they're going to want to follow this book. But you can certainly have freedom to bring your own ideas, etc. in. But the students themselves, getting back to the main point, are great. They haven't been beaten down yet so much by the pressures of adulthood. They're still very genki and like to have fun. Junior high, really, from what I can tell, is the most fun in the sense that they're not in high school, which I'll get to in a minute, and some of the pressures that come with that, but they're old enough to like really kind of, you can relate to them a little bit more, you can have more conversations with them. I really enjoyed junior high quite a bit. High school, the students, this is where in the Japanese school system, the kids start to get separated by ability. They have to take tests to get into high school, so students at one high school might be more academically advanced than students at another, or another high school you get placed at might be concentrate on industrial arts or fishing or you know, some kind of craft or trade. For instance, my friend Ang goes to one school and it's all about like farming. So they make these wonderful, like they make their own yogurt, they grow their own vegetables, they have a zoo on campus for animals. But anyway, so the high school students, of course, you're going to be able to speak to them the most in English. If you get a more academically advanced high school, they're going to be much closer to you in age. They're going to be much more into things like music and movies and popular culture. So that's that. Your teachers that you work with. At elementary school, they're going to be homeroom teachers who teach all the subject areas: math, science, English, Japanese, everything. They're not, almost across the board, they're not going to be very good English speakers. They're going to speak very little English, in fact, when they're trying to help you figure out your lesson plans. At junior high, they have to be trained English teachers. They're called JTEs, Japanese Teachers of English. So you should be able to have conversations with them in English. They can help you out much more with day-to-day things in your life that require Japanese if you don't speak Japanese well. Their idioms and colloquialisms are generally not going to be that good, so sometimes your conversation can be very stilted unless they've lived abroad, and that's still rare, at least out in rural Shimane it was. In high school, from what I've heard from other ALTs, you're going to find the teachers who are most adept at speaking English. They have to know more English because the level of English taught in high schools is generally, the highest. So they have to know more about grammar. They have to be able to speak a little bit better. Another big difference is if you get placed in a junior high school and are farmed out to elementary school, or if you're placed solely in an elementary school, you're most likely going to be hired through the BOE, the Board of Education, and you will have a supervisor who is in charge of kind of helping you get your cell phone, get your apartment all squared away, help you with day-to-day things, paperwork, kind of your jet liaison. And that person will work for the BOE, will be at some kind of central office, and you'll see them maybe once a week, maybe once a month. And this person may or may not speak a lot of English. It varies. If you're at a high school, your supervisor tends to be a teacher at the school who is assigned to you, and you're kind of more employed directly by the school, although you might be part of the prefectural board of education. And this is all very complicated stuff that you don't really have to worry about. But basically, it's the difference between having an on-site supervisor who you could potentially talk to every day if you needed to, versus somebody at a more centrally located office. I got very lucky in my time. My BOE supervisors were all wonderful people, very helpful. One of them spoke very good English. Three of them, my first 3 years, spoke as, they tried their best. And their English was probably not as good as my Japanese, but we met each other in the middle. Okay, the schools themselves are going to vary in size so much, it's so hard to talk about that, although high schools tend to be much larger because there's less of them. Many less of you will get hired to teach in high school than in junior high and elementary school. I had 5 elementary schools that fed one junior high, and then from that one junior high, the kids kind of went off to maybe 4 or 5 high schools in the area. But there was probably 14 or so junior highs that fed those 4 or 5 high schools. So the high schools tend to be larger. For instance, Taisha High School has about 1,000 kids. My Taisha Junior High had 450 kids spread over 3 grades. And my biggest elementary school had about 300 to 350 kids. But as you all know, if you've watched this channel, I had an elementary school that had 11 kids. I had one that had 35 kids. So you will have some very small schools. And I have friends in Izumo who have junior high schools that only have 90 or 100 kids, literally like one class per grade level. Okay, so that's some of the blow-by-blow of the difference. The last difference is generally attire. If you're going to teach at elementary or junior high, you're going to be able to be business casual at junior high, maybe even more casual at elementary school. But a lot of high school people, Jets I talk to, it's, button down and a tie if you're a man, a nice blouse and, pants or a skirt if you're a woman. So it gets a little bit more formal at high school. And again, that's a generalization. I can't say that for sure across the board. think about it when you apply what you want to choose, and if you get accepted, your expectations of where you're going can be a lot different based on what type of school you get picked for. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Of course, if you have questions, leave them below, and I'll put up playlists in the sidebar over here to help you learn more about junior high and elementary, which I can talk about in much more detail. Okay, thanks for watching. See ya.